To talk to us about this, the impact of this move, we are joined by Mr. T P Ostwal, Senior Partner at T P Ostwal and Associates. He's joining us now from our Mumbai studios. Mr. Ostwal, thank you so much for joining us on NDTV Profit. Now, we'll discuss the impact of this move, but first of all, the clarifications that have come from the government. There's good news for housewives. They can easily deposit 2.5 lakh rupees in their accounts, and there will be no scrutiny. I mean, it says housewives, but I guess this is good enough for men as well. They'll just hand over the money to their wives and ask them to deposit it in the bank. What do you make of this move? Because the finance minister has clarified there is no tax amnesty here. If you have black money, put it in the bank and pay your taxes. And the taxes according to your slab rates, and then a 200% penalty as well. Do you think people will be forthcoming at all to declare the black money?
Let me take up this whole matter in a proper perspective. First of all, there is a provision which exists under the Income Tax Act that the income tax officer has a right to scrutinize all the cash deposits. More than 10 lakh of rupees cash deposit is subject to filing of a complete return by the banks. Banks are required to intimate to the income tax department that who have deposited. This existing provision exists in the law. Secondly, if suppose somebody has deposited his withdrawals into the bank account again, there is no question of income tax officer scrutinizing and threatening you. So therefore, my opinion is this clarification has created more fear psycho in the public rather than really a clarification. There was no need to clarify, because the way in which the government is now clarifying, earlier Prime Minister said you deposit any money in your bank account, we will not ask a question, you will get the money, just deposit into the bank account. Now subsequently, the number of schemes must have been worked out by the people, so they come out with a clarification, more than 2.5 lakh of rupees deposit, we will scrutinize. Now scrutinize is your right, you should do it, there is nothing wrong about it. But if suppose, why this has happened, I'll tell you. Some newspaper report, some news came in that in 1978 scheme of Morarji Desai, 90% of the money which was in circulation was converted into the new notes, and then it means only 10% of the monies are lost circulation. So that was a black. So therefore the government feared if this is the type of a response the government is going to get in this scheme also, then whole scheme which the government has worked out become a fiasco. And it is an extra cost to the exchequer for converting the money into the powder and then recycling the money and this new circulation of the new money. And therefore government is now creating a fear psycho amongst the people. Don't deposit more than this, if you will be scrutinizing. But if you have already got withdrawals from the bank and you are depositing the money, you have a source explainable. For example, if the businessman has a source from his business which he can explain, then there is no question, he can at the most tax me the amount of income tax leviable on that. And how can he levy penalty if I can explain the source? Section 69A of the Income Tax Act says, if the source is not explained to the satisfaction of the tax officer, then only he can take the other recourses, otherwise the penalty. The section itself says that where the satisfactory source cannot be explained or where you have deposited cash into the bank, it will be taxed at the normal rate or at the maximum marginal rate.
Mr. Ostwal, I think that is the intention of the government as well. If you can explain your source, if it is legitimate, there is no problem. The real crackdown is against the cash that is hoarded, where the source is not revealed and your and how you got the money is not revealed. Plus, once this entire move came through, a lot of people started thinking of ways to how to make their black turn white. There were long queues in supermarkets where people were buying rations for 6 months. Luxury malls were open till midnight where people would spend on luxury items at the last moment. New ingenious ways are being discovered to convert your black into white. Some people are buying first class air tickets to expensive destinations like the US, and they will then cancel it and get new and convert their black to white. So what we want to try and understand is, are there loopholes? Can people still find their way around?
Please understand, people are going to the supermarket and hoarding the stock not for the purpose of converting black into white. How much you can hoard, that is one thing you please understand. Second important, please understand that If you are buying in the market, it was with a fear psycho that tomorrow will not be available, the cash will not be available. The government's intention could, howsoever good it may be, it is not going to result into a quick action. You can see that today also the ATMs are closed. And now thereafter, 2 days later, next day government announces on Saturday and Sunday the banks will remain open. They could have done it on the day on which the scheme came out. Why do you take such steps in a piecemeal fashion? You have been telling that we have talked about the scheme for last 6 months. We seriously debated. I have my own doubts. If suppose somebody has been debating with number of people the scheme for last 6 months, there has to be leakage. Ultimately, you are all human beings. And because of this, some sector of the society must have converted their monies into the different monies or different form of an currency. And that has an impact. And therefore, this is like an insider trading. And therefore, this type of a tendency should be curbed. You should be fair and impartial to everyone. And my opinion, of course, I am looking this as objectively, and I am saying that when you are talking of loopholes in the scheme, people here, 125 crore people, 84% of the currency is out of circulation. Only 16% of the currency is in the circulation. And out of 125 crore of the people, only 3.8 crore taxpayers. Out of 3.8 crore taxpayers, only 4,780 people are paying 74% of the tax collected by the country. That is, a person depositing an income tax on more than 1 crore of rupees income declared, only 4,780 people are there in this country. The government has released the statistics only a week before. And therefore, if you say this is the size of the population which is not taxed in the country, each person, if you give allowances of 2 lakhs of rupees which are not taxed and which are not paying the tax, filing the tax return, that will get converted. Assuming theoretically, we are all talking theory. And if that gets converted, do you think that there is any black money left? So my opinion is that government should have done little more careful exercise. Of course, they have done good job. I must compliment Prime Minister. In fact, I said somewhere that Mahatma Gandhi liberated the country from Britishers, whereas this gentleman, Mr. Modi, we must give 3 salute to him. He has liberated country from black money. The step was in a right direction, but it should have been done little carefully. This type of a clarification of 2.5 lakh will scrutinize, doesn't go well. In my opinion, you have a power, do it later on, punish everybody, but don't make big noise about it.
All right. Wanted to understand from you, how effective do you think these measures will be to curtailing the generation of new black money, and what happens to transactions that take place in real estate, where there is a large portion of black money involved, and even jewelers, because the government has come out with a directive saying that if you are selling jewelry, you better take the PAN numbers of your customers, otherwise the jewelers will be liable to answer for how these transactions were done. What impact do you see this will have on first generation of new black money, real estate and jewelry sales?
In my opinion, government has not been successful taking any steps for generation of black money. Only this is the step which existing black money they are curbing down, cracking down, and then bringing into the books of accounts or bringing into the system, which will help number of sectors. But there are no mechanism. What somebody has rightly said, that after 2,000 rupees note circulation comes in, which is now going to be less number of volume which you will have to handle, the same tendency after few months will start. My opinion is, therefore, government will have to come out with cancellation or demonetization of the high net worth, high currency notes frequently, periodically. And that will possibly trap number of people. And this is the tendency in some of the countries. They have already started. Europe is now going to come out with a 500 euro note cancellation. So likewise, and therefore this is not a one-time exercise. It should be continuous exercise. The government, this step shows the failure of the government in curbing black money. And this government was only there in the power for 2.5 years, whereas the earlier government for 70, 60 years, they have been most utter failure in controlling the black money, and that tendency continued, and therefore this government had no other choice than to take such step. And therefore, we can't blame this government for generation of black money. That black money was getting generated, and this is the right step which they have taken. Sectors which are going to be affected, as you rightly said, the luxury goods sector bound to be impacted. Why people should spend money, huge money on the luxury goods? Those who have black money, they are spending. And now why on the real estate was another sector, jewelry was the third sector, which will be impacted. But please understand, necessities also should be kept in the mind. 2,000 rupees per day. Now, yesterday my doctor was telling me, a patient came, a cancer patient, and he could not check him. He says, if you don't pay me the fees, why should I? You have 100 rupees note, you tell me. Or you pay me by credit card, I'll give. But he says, sir, I'm a terminal cancer patient. I don't have bank account. I don't have anything. I don't have Paytm. Now, if we are now in a country of ours, 25% of the people do not have bank account. I do not know, I myself do not know what is the mechanism of paying the money through the digital mode of this Paytm type of mechanism. I use only credit card. I don't use even a debit card. In such a situation, please understand, taking such steps is really bringing down a very heavy hand, with a very heavy hand. Give a limit of 5,000 rupees, at least understandable, and cash, 8 days, 10 days. Now, supposing if the bank would have been closed from Saturday, Sunday, Monday, all the 3 days which is holiday on Monday, and only Friday was working, I could guarantee you that there would have been a commotion and chaos. Whole supermarket, there would be gate crash, possibly there would be looting, and all these things would not now happen because they announced the Saturday and Sunday as holiday. Otherwise, I was fearing that. I was telling my family members, don't go in the market today and tomorrow. Let us see what happens. If you want to buy some essentials, call them on a phone, get money, or get the credit card, debit card, whatever is the money you have got, pay out of that, do a transaction through the Snapdeal or other mechanism, but not to go in the market, because
right.
I believe there would be a gate crashes on the markets.
Right. Mr. Ostwal, how do you see this for tax collection, for tax growth? Do you believe now, at least in the near term or over the next 5 years, tax growth would be very high, tax collection growth, I mean?
I believe yes. 100% what you are saying is true. Our GDP will improve. The tax collection, in my opinion, with this, the government must immediately announce a step that they are reducing the rate of tax. And they should really propel collection of tax. And you can see the impact. Our all neighboring countries have a rate of tax between 15 to 20%. We are 30% tax, which are very high. UK, a country like UK, has now announced the corporate income tax rate will be gradually reduced and it will go to 15%. We must take the steps in a manner which will help the collection of the tax also as one of the important measures, and that one of the best method is reduce the compliance, reduce the rate of tax, make the remove all the incentives and collect the tax at a flat rate. People will respond, and
right.
I'm quite confident people will give a good response.
The statistics that you gave us earlier, that how many people are paying tax, what's happening, do you believe that will increase substantially? People will go and open their accounts, probably smaller people would also start to have their accounts. Will that number also increase? It may take time, but will that concentration increase?
You can see, in my opinion, in next 3 months, you will have 25% swelling in the bank accounts. Money is going into the bank account, and therefore they will eventually become a taxpayer. And therefore, why don't you reduce the basic exemption limit, which is 2.5 lakhs, to 0, and say 1% tax up to 2.5 lakh of rupees. Introduce 1% tax so everybody will file the return compulsorily. No choice. Why don't you do that? But then what the government says, our administration cost is very high to administer all these taxpayers. But administration cost cannot be the basis of collection of tax or not collection. You are propelling, you are allowing people to generate black money. You are allowing people not to pay the taxes. And then you want to crack down them on the black money measures like this.
Right. Also, of course, these measures have been announced. Today is the first day when banks would be open. And as you said that, there could be a chaos because of the limitations of cash, because of the problems that a lot of people may come in a same branch. A lot of people may not be able to do it by the end of the day, today or tomorrow. But if this step is implemented properly, say over the next 2 to 3 months, you expect the liquidity to be same or liquidity to be normal?
Well, liquidity in the banking system will improve substantially. And the whole of this $200 billion lying in the cash will go into the bank. So liquidity is bound to improve. NBFCs will also get the cash. And the transactions through the credit cards and all these mechanisms will improve. In my opinion, overall, this is a step in the right direction because GST is coming. I'm saying only thing, the trouble which the small people who are not taxpayers is created with this type of a scheme, that should have been addressed. Otherwise, the intent of the scheme and the scheme per se is fantastic. I have got 100 out of 100 marks to the government for taking such steps. If suppose opposition is criticizing, they are criticizing for their best interest, which is not getting protected.
Right. Any view on what's happening with the Tata Group as well? Today they have seized Cyrus Mistry as chairman of TCS, appointed an interim chairman. How do you see things going there, or what essentially is the rule book, if you could tell us?
Well, that is a matter between the Tatas internally, and I have no comment on that because we are also watching and waiting for what is happening. We all wish that the group a good success because the group has been one of the finest group, and such aberrations do take place in the life of anybody, any groups, and therefore I am quite sure government, not government, they will have strength to handle such matters.
Right. Mr. Ostwal, thank you so much for taking our time for us. Always a pleasure talking to you. That was a tax expert view coming in on how should one go ahead, how should one go ahead and make use of this scheme which the government has given.